Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, look, I'm sorry. I could barely sleep last night. So here is now the absolute latest. The details of the Memorandum of Understanding have now been leaked. They were first leaked inside the Israeli media. The Israelis got a hold of it. Their media now has published it's about a page and a half, the document. We know exactly now what is in the MOU, as it's called, the Memorandum of Understanding, which apparently the United States and Iran, by the way, they've signed it. Both sides have electronically signed it. However, in 2 days in Switzerland, either J.D. Vance, the vice president, or maybe even President Trump himself will meet with Iranian leaders, and they will have an official signing ceremony. And now we know exactly what is involved in this so-called interim peace deal. And let me just say this. By the way, the New York Post has gotten a hold of it. The Wall Street Journal has now gotten a hold of it. It's everywhere. Axios has it. I mean, it's everywhere. It is essentially a 12-point plan. This is the framework for the basis of a permanent peace agreement. But this is the framework now for ending the war with Iran and then kickstarting 60 days of negotiations where, at least in theory, there is supposed to be a complete and total ceasefire. What is striking to me right from the beginning, we won this war. I want to be crystal clear about this. Militarily, the United States won this war. There is no discussion, no debate, none whatsoever. Iran's navy is at the bottom of the sea. Its air force has been wiped off the face of the earth. Iran's military has been absolutely decimated. Its economy is in tatters. Its nuclear program has been shattered and is in 1,000 pieces. It has been set back for at least 10 to 15 years. So when you look at the actual results of 13,000 airstrikes, you see that Iran, from the nuclear point of view, the military point of view, the economic point of view, they got their heads handed to them. And yet, they are surrendering at the negotiating table. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. Or it's going from a victory to a defeat at the negotiating table, however you want to phrase it. But this is not a memorandum of understanding, a peace deal, in which the victor gets the spoils and the Iranians now have to suck it up, Buttercup. Instead, I want to read to you some of the provisions of this agreement. And frankly, they're stunning. They're absolutely stunning. And my advice to the president is just tear this deal up. I'm begging you, tear this deal up. Just tear it up. No deal is better than this deal. So, number one, it commits Iran, the United States, and their allies, meaning Israel and Hezbollah, to stop fighting across the entire region, and that includes, of course, Lebanon. So, why is Lebanon being brought into this? Lebanon is being brought into this because now this leaves Hezbollah intact. This deal prevents Israel from A, defending itself, number one, and B, from taking out Hezbollah, which continues to colonize and control Lebanon on behalf of Iran. So, in effect, this deal cements or continues to cement Iran's effective control and occupation of Lebanon. How is this a win for the United States? How is this a win for Israel? How is this a win for the West in the Middle East? But it's only getting worse. So, the heart and soul of this 12-point memorandum of understanding, and Trump really hammered this point yesterday, is that Tehran reaffirms its pledge never to build a nuclear weapon. Now, that's nice, don't get me wrong, but it's all conceptual. Tehran, Iran, for decades has been pledging they're never going to build a nuclear weapon. They said that literally in the deal with Obama. They said, no, we're not going to build a nuclear weapon. No. We're not going to build, acquire, obtain a nuclear weapon. No. And of course, what were they doing behind the scenes? Trying to build up a nuclear bomb. By the way, they're still a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which bans all signatories from trying to acquire the bomb, the nuke. So the fact that they give a pledge is irrelevant. They've been giving this pledge now for 20 years. Behind the scenes, they have been marching towards the bomb. In other words, their pledge is meaningless. But apparently that's a big concession from them. Now, there is no restraints or limits whatsoever on Iran's enriched uranium stockpile, on Iran's enriched uranium, on their enrichment capacity. None. The agreement is completely vague. It says during the 60 days, the U.S. and Iran are going to work out together what actually happens to this enriched uranium that they have buried under all that rubble. And in fact, the Iranians are saying, we're just going to dilute it. We're not going to give it back to the United States. We're not going to dispose of it. We're not going to destroy it. We're just going to dilute it, which means the centrifuges start spinning again, and then it can go from 3-4% back to weapons grade 90% like this. If they're going to open talks the 60 days on Iran's future enrichment activities and nuclear needs. So they're just going to talk about Iran's enrichment capacity. No restraints, no limits whatsoever. The United States lifts its naval blockade, but they cannot impose new sanctions, and we cannot send more troops to the region. None whatsoever. Well, why can't we send more troops to the region? So already now we're tying our hands during this entire 60-day negotiation. Now, here it comes. Iran would guarantee safe, toll-free passage for commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz for 60 days. It's not permanent. It's only 60 days. Meaning, after the 60-day period, Iran could potentially reimpose tolls. But it gets even more interesting. According now to the Memorandum of Understanding, the United States is going to offer Iran access to billions of dollars in frozen funds right from the get-go. So the moment that deal is signed on Friday, from the moment that deal is signed, they're going to get billions of dollars right away. Friday, cling, billions of dollars are going to go to their accounts just for signing the memorandum. Now, Iran also is going to get temporary waivers on sanctions on their oil. So starting Friday, they can start selling their oil on the world market right away. Right away. After a final deal is reached after 60 days, the United States must withdraw all of its forces within 30 days. So the United States, we're out. We signed this deal with them, the final deal, all U.S. forces out of the Persian Gulf, which is exactly what the mullahs wanted. All sanctions on Iran will be completely lifted. All of it. So they can sell their oil, their petrochemicals, their energy production, their energy products, uninhibited on the market. They're going to be showered in cash. Here comes the biggie. The deal paves the way for a $300 billion reconstruction fund for the regime in Iran. $300 billion. $300 billion. They're going to completely rebuild Iran's military and economy. And then the last one. Iran and Oman can negotiate with the Persian Gulf Straits. Okay, I'm getting a lot of these. The lines are empty. And I'm getting emails. I'm getting text messages. I'm getting this guy, Patrick, I won't say his last name, messages me on Messenger. Didn't even listen to the whole monologue. Didn't even bother. Doesn't even want to know what's in the deal. Doesn't want to know. And he writes to me, Jeff, with friends like you, who needs enemies? Goodbye. Okay. So, all right, fine. It's okay. It's your right. It's a free country. You don't want to listen. Don't listen. You want to call me an enemy of Donald Trump and an enemy of MAGA and an enemy of the Republican Party or conservatism or whatever? Go ahead. Take this piece of crap deal, because that's what this is. It's a piece of garbage. And you try to sell it to the American people. So I'm going to ask, I've asked him, and I'm going to ask all of you naysayers out there to explain to me a couple of key points. How does a $300 billion reconstruction fund for the mullahs in Iran, how does that benefit the United States? That's good. If Joe Biden or any Democrat came up with a $300 billion reconstruction fund for the Islamo-fascists in Tehran, you would be tearing them a new one. You would be in an uproar. Why? Because no way in hell should those medieval savages get access to $300 billion. Are you insane? $300 billion means they can completely rebuild their military, rebuild their economy, rebuild their missile program. I mean, seriously, are you on drugs? Okay, you don't like that. The deal says that Iran, with their partner Oman, that's their only other ally in the region, will then make their own maritime security arrangements with Saudi Arabia, with Kuwait, with the United Arab Emirates, with Bahrain, with Qatar, all those that produce, the Gulf states that produce so much of the world's oil. And they will then be allowed to charge a quote-unquote fee, not a toll. We're just playing word games now. It's not a toll. It's a quote fee, a fee, so that they can guarantee the safe passage of all of these oil tankers and commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. So what this deal effectively does is it hands over control over the Strait of Hormuz to Iran. That's what this deal does. The most vital strategic waterway in the world. And the Iranians now will have effective control over it. They've won the war. Hello? Who controls the strait controls the outcome of the war. Who controls that vital choke point controls access to 20% of the world's oil, 30% of the world's fertilizer. We have ceded that at the negotiating table. Are you kidding me? By the way, all of the supporters of the war now are against the deal. Everyone, they're looking at this and they're saying, who negotiated this piece of crap? You know what I really want to say? Who negotiated this? Lindsey Graham is now up in arms. General Doug Keane, that clown that told him to go to war 4 months ago and said this will be over in 10 days. He's saying, my God, this gives Iran everything. The Israelis, Bibi Netanyahu, they're all Republicans in Congress have now told President Trump, if this is the outlines of a deal, and remember, under law, federal law, any deal with Iran, especially regarding its nuclear program, must be reviewed and approved by Congress. This is not going to get through Congress. I'm telling you right now, you can spit at me all you want. You can call me a fake Canadian all you want. You can libel me. You can call me a traitor. You can say I'm an enemy. I don't care. Insult my wife. By the way, many of you now are insulting my wife. What the hell does my wife have to do with anything? She didn't like the war from the beginning, and after this deal, I think she's been proven right, if you want the truth. So, insult my wife, insult me, insult the fact that I come from Canada, call me a traitor, call me a Benedict Arnold, tell me to go back to Canada. That's all I'm getting. But no one's arguing the merits of the deal. No one is saying this is a good deal. No one. So you want me to come here and lie to you and say to you, this is the deal of a century, as Trump did just a couple days ago. This is a deal. What a deal. Peace in our time. Oh, my God. Oh, we should be honored to have a deal like this. You want me to lie to you? Is that what you want? But you think the American people are so stupid that they can't see for themselves what a horrible deal this is? So what? If I lie to you like those idiots on Fox News and say, wow, oh, magnificent, magnificent, when in fact it gives, here, the New York Post, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, if I'm not here to speak the truth the way I see it, then there's no point in me being behind this microphone. And I'm not saying this is a bad deal because I want to hurt the president. In fact, quite the contrary. Literally the exact opposite. Now, I'm telling you, if this is the deal that he signs on Friday and that they try to implement over the next 60 days, President Trump is going to get destroyed in the midterms. And it has nothing to do with me, whether I back it, don't back it, spin it, don't spin it, support it, don't support it, because the Democrats are going to go to town. And once you start seeing and hearing what's in this 12-point plan, look, J.D. Vance, God bless the guy, is going on The View. He's going on CNN. He's going on every show on Fox. He's going on CBS. He's going on Megyn Kelly. He's going everywhere trying to sell this deal. And he's making the best case you can possibly make for it. But you can put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig, no matter how much you dress it up. And this is the problem now with the deal. And there's no getting around it. It gives Iran everything up front. And all we get are empty promises and pledges. It gives them billions of dollars the moment they sign on Friday in unfrozen assets. We're going to find out how much, but it's at least billions. It waives oil sanctions temporarily so they can start selling oil on Friday. Right away, they sign and boom, within 1 second, they're selling oil. Now, what have we gotten in return? Nothing. I'm just stating a fact. Nothing. Have they made a single concession? The only concession that they make in this memorandum of understanding is that they make a pledge to never obtain or acquire or purchase a nuclear weapon. Okay, but they've done that repeatedly. I don't want to repeat myself. My opening monologue says it all, but they're a party to the non-proliferation treaty, nuclear treaty. They're not supposed to get a nuclear weapon. They said the exact same thing to Obama in his deal. They said, in fact, the way they word it is, we reaffirm. That's exactly how it's worded. our commitment to never acquire or obtain a nuclear weapon, meaning we reaffirm. We've been saying this to you guys for 20 years. Have they stopped? No. They just do it behind the scenes. So their word means nothing. So it's an empty pledge. That's it. That's it. I'm telling you, that's it. Now, just to clarify, the $300 billion reconstruction fund, which is to me ridiculous. To me, it's borderline criminal. There's not a cent of American taxpayer money that's going to be used. And that's the point JD has been making when people say, well, what about this $300 billion fund? And JG says, he's right. Hey, there's not a dime. American taxpayers aren't going to spend a dime. Okay, well, that's nice. But the point is, they're still getting $300 billion. That's what I care about. And by the way, just you know who's ponying up all the money. Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, all of these Gulf states are going to be throwing money into this massive fund. It's a way to bribe the Iranian regime. Bribe them into never attacking those countries again. And so you want a nice power plant? There's the money. You want money for economic reconstruction? There's the money. You want money to rebuild your country? There's the money. And by the way, money is fungible. So yeah, we need $40 billion for this massive economic reconstruction package. Here it is. We take 20 and we send it off and we buy missiles, or we buy drones, or we buy whatever, or the money is sent to their terrorist proxies. It says nothing. The deal says nothing about Iran funding Hamas or Hezbollah or Islamic Jihad. Nothing. They don't even have, there's not even something on paper that says, well, we're not going to support him anymore. Nothing. There's not a word mentioned about it. Now, I just want you to think objectively, okay? We had a crippling naval blockade on Iran. Nothing was coming in. Their oil, they couldn't sell their oil. They were losing $500 million a day. A day. There were no more goods and products, including food, in the stores. Inflation is at 400%. We were squeezing them like in a vice. Their blockade of the Strait of Hormuz was leaking. I'm just stating a fact. We were getting ships loaded with oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Not all of them, obviously, but we were getting some ships through. So their blockade was starting to break. Our blockade was squeezing the daylights out of them. If the Iranians, after being pounded militarily, 13,000 airstrikes, their military destroyed, their economy in tatters, their nuclear program shattered, and now this crippling blockade with all that leverage, if they're not going to make concessions on uranium enrichment, if they're not going to agree to give up their enriched uranium stockpile, if they're not going to say, no, we're no longer going to support our terrorist proxies, if you're not going to do it now at the point of maximum leverage, you're going to do it in 60 days with already billions of dollars coming in? And the naval blockade lifted? Who negotiated this? So it gives Iran everything, and we get nothing. And here's my prediction, and you can hold me to it. There's going to be no final deal. This is all supposed to lead to a final, after 60 days or maybe another 30 or another 60. They have provisions in there to just keep extending the negotiations. There's going to be no final deal. They're going to continue to have the capacity to enrich uranium. They're going to continue to have the enriched uranium stockpile. We're not going to get it out. It's still going to be there. They're going to continue to trade oil on the world market. And I'm telling you, they're going to get access to all of these frozen funds and assets. This gives Iran, if you can believe it, more money than Obama did. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. This deal, this entire war, went from winning to now negotiating, I don't care how you call it, a defeat or a surrender at the negotiating table. This is what we get for 13,000 airstrikes? 13 service members dead? The damage it did to our economy? The damage it did to the world economy? All the sacrifices that we made, and this is what we end up with? This is your big memorandum of understanding? Okay, lines are absolutely jammed. I want to go right to the phone lines. Let me just say literally one final exclamation point. Rescind the deal. No deal is better than a horrible deal. A disastrous deal will be an albatross around Trump and the Republicans heading into November. In fact, I'm telling you, you can take this to the bank. I'll bet anything you want. The Democrats, just because it's Trump, it could be the best deal ever, but they're going to vote against it. So the Democrats are going to vote against it no matter what. There are so many Republicans who are disgusted by the provisions in this deal already. It's never going to make its way through Congress. It's not going to pass. So why defend something that is going to go down in flames in Congress? Split your party, split MAGA, and give the Democrats the kind of ammunition that I'm telling you they're going to crucify Trump with in November, starting with the $300 billion reconstruction fund for Iran, and essentially de facto giving them management over the Strait of Hormuz. Just those two provisions alone. And Trump is in big trouble in the midterms. So it's okay. It's still not too late. Really, all can be well. That's why I'm sounding the alarm. I'm ringing the alarm bell. Rescind the deal. No deal is infinitely better than a disastrous or a horrible deal. And you say, well, Jeff, everybody signed it electronically. No problem. Hezbollah is already launching attacks on Israel. There's supposed to be a ceasefire across the entire region, like Hezbollah is going to uphold the ceasefire. Well, there's your out right there. No, I'm sorry. You can't control your guys in Lebanon. I'm rescinding the deal. It's over. So you guys can't keep a ceasefire? Tear it up. Bye. Because I'm telling you, Trump can sell the war to the American people. We don't need a deal. That's what I find incredible. Why do you need this? This obsession with treaties and agreements and deals. Why? Is Iran's nuclear program decimated? Yes. Have they been set back 10, 15 years? Yeah. Did we completely degrade and destroy their military? Yeah. Is their economy on the ropes? Yeah. Frankly, I would have kept the blockade in place, but let that go. Is the Strait of Hormuz now basically reopened? Starting to? Yeah. Is oil starting to come out? Yeah. So just, okay, we won. Go home. Or if you want, we have the U.S. Navy, and I don't know why Trump won't do this, but that's his, that's his thing. That's up to him. Just we reopen the strait. That's it. And France wants to join us. Britain wants to join us. The Europeans want to join us. The Gulf states want to join us. So we, on our own, with our allies, we reopen the strait. We don't need a piece of paper and getting all kinds of agreements and giving concessions to the Iranians. Who cares if there's a formal peace agreement or not? Instead, to get this agreement, we're giving away everything. It's not worth it. And look, forget the elections, okay? Forget the elections for a second. You don't give the mullahs this kind of money. I don't care if it's the Gulf states that pay for it. I don't care if it's frozen assets and it's technically their money. I don't care. You don't give those Islamo-fascists this kind of cash. 300 billion reconstruction, 100 billion unfrozen assets. You've got all now waiving all the oil sanctions, all the oil exports. Are you kidding me? You're looking at $500 billion. And you honestly believe they're going to what? Use it to buy baby food? What? They're going to use it for hospitals and schools? And healthcare for their poor people? What do you think they're going to do? Missiles, drones, centrifuges, enrichment, Hezbollah, Hamas. So we're going to economically and militarily rebuild them, that within 3, 4, 5 years, they're going to be a threat to the region, to Europe, and to the world. After we've destroyed them militarily. Now, does this make any sense to anybody? No, I know I was born and raised in Canada. I get it. Okay. Okay, go back to Canada. Got it. Okay, my wife is a bitch, according to many of you. Okay, fine, no problem. Okay, I get it. No, I'm a closet Democrat now. Okay, I get it. No, I'm an enemy of Trump. I'm a traitor to America. I get it. Okay, deal with the merits of my argument. Okay, here, let me just, so we can settle this for the next 3 hours of the show. I have little horns that grow out of my head. Okay? I'm the devil. I'm scum. Puh. Okay? There. You don't need to say more. You know? I'll get to it when I get to it, Sandy. So my point is, fine. Call me every name in the book. Deal with the merits of the argument. How does $300 billion in reconstruction money for Iran help us? I want to know. How does giving them effective control over the Strait of Hormuz, the most vital oil choke point in the world, how does that benefit us? How does giving them billions of dollars just to start negotiations, how does that help us? I could go on and on. I'm just giving you the first 3 points. So deal with the merits of the argument. And I'm telling you, no one can defend this deal in good conscience. If you can, I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Dane in Mississippi. You're going to kick us off, Dane. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, and good morning.
Hi.
Listen, you say sometimes you're 100% right. Sometimes you say you're 1,000%. Well, today you're 1,000,000% right, and I'm going to tell you why. I wouldn't give these SOBs 3 cents, let alone $300 billion. And Obama gave them cash on pallets. Trump's giving them a credit line. What's the difference? Okay, this is ridiculous. I never seen such a. I wouldn't wipe. You know what with this thing? This is what did Trump get hit by one of those UFC fighters in the head? What's wrong with him? What are they thinking? This is just beyond disbelief. Beyond disbelief. For people like myself are busting my you-know-what, trying to make it, survive. Okay, while they're sitting there paying $1.5 million for UFC fights, having a grand old time, $60 million. And then you come up and you fly to Switzerland to sign a deal like this? Are you on drugs? Mr. President, you have here the number one fan of you since you came down that escalator. But I'm telling you something. My faith for you is waning, and it's waning big time. The only thing I want to see with you, Mr. Trump, is your general raising Cain on the USS Missouri with a unconditional surrender signing. That's all I want to see. Nothing else. Nothing less.
Well, that's what he promised us. I mean, to be fair, I mean, when you go back at the beginning of the war, I can play you clip after clip after clip. He said, the only thing I will accept is unconditional surrender, the complete fall of the Iranian regime. And this now leaves them in a stronger position. There's no question. I mean, there's no question. So, I mean, it's undeniable. Now, what the administration is spinning through JD and Trump is, but this could be a transformational relationship. In other words, they're not denying anymore that the regime is going to be entrenched. And they're not even denying that it's going to leave them in a stronger position. Their argument now is that they've put in so many incentives, the $300 billion reconstruction fund, having access to $100 billion in their frozen assets, the ability now to sell unlimited amounts of oil, no sanctions, that this is going to transform the regime. I'm giving you J.D. Vance. This is J.D. and the president. That you're looking now, these are new leaders now in Iran. That, as Trump said, they're more rational. They're nicer. He goes, I'm surprised how nice they are. Well, yeah, I'll tell you why they're nice. Because it's win after win after win at the negotiating table. I mean, if I was getting these kinds of concessions and I were them, I'd be nice too. But this idea that we have a new regime in Iran, or that somehow they've been transformed, and now they want to join the community of nations, and they want to make, be kumbaya with everybody. I'm like, guys, I don't know what you're smoking over there. Is everybody taking Hunter Biden's crack pipe? I mean, seriously, are you all snorting Hunter Biden's cocaine? No, let me tell you what happened, Dane. And it's obvious. And top administration officials are already admitting this in private. President Trump is worried about the midterms. The administration is panicking. Gas prices are too high. They have their own internal polling. This war was deeply unpopular. It just is, whether you like it or not. And they looked at the polls. They saw how this war was an albatross around Trump's neck. They saw oil and gas prices being very high. And he made a political calculation. Give me a quick, partial deal now so we can try to save our bacon in November. And we'll worry about it afterwards. That's exactly what just took place. And that's why you have this deal. And the Iranians knew that. They knew he was on a political timetable, which is the worst thing you can do if you're trying to negotiate an end to a war. And they just extracted concession after concession after concession after concession. And look, I got to tell you, I thought the Iranians were lying. They came out a couple days ago and they said, yeah, we're not going to have a toll, but we're going to have fees. And I said, my God, the ink is not even dry on this so-called memorandum of understanding, and they're already violating it. And then it turns out, no, they weren't lying. It gives them the permission, the right to, I'm giving you technical language now, to establish, quote, security and maritime arrangements between themselves and Oman. That's their only ally. So they both control the Strait of Hormuz, Oman and Iran, to impose fees on all Gulf states, their shipping, their oil, everything. So we're just calling, when they say, well, they're not going to be tolled. Yeah, it's just a fee. Well, a fee or a toll, who cares? It's money. Doesn't matter if you call it a toll or a fee. They're still going to be charging ships, and they still then have de facto control over the management of the Strait of Hormuz. It's a bad deal. I don't care how you spin this. It's a bad deal. End the deal, tear up the deal, revoke the deal. I don't care. But a no deal is better than this. That you can take to the bank. Dane, thank you very much for that call. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, buddy.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, listen, friends, long time, pal. Listen to you all the time. And you are 100% correct, bud. You know, if people are calling you a traitor, then this is exactly what's wrong with politics in this country. Yeah, you can disagree, but I don't like this any more than I like it when the left does it. You know, when they blindly follow what they're told to do, we criticize them. You know, we say, look at them. They'll follow their leadership when they're told, you know, believe in transgenderism, you know, support, you know, cutting off children's genitals, all in the name of their party. If someone on our side can honestly look at this deal and say this is a good thing, I'm sorry. Either you are not paying attention to any of this, or you're just too blinded that you just don't care. And anyone that wants to criticize me, go right ahead. Debate this. Like you said, Jeff, debate the merits of it. Iran are going to be better off than they were before the war. You know, I mean, we go back to when he hit them with the B-2 bombers. We were told their nuclear program is done. We set them back 20 years. Okay, that's the, you know, quote-unquote intelligence community. So we did it. Everyone said, you know, okay, good, their program's done. We don't have to worry about it. Oh, except now they're 2 weeks away from getting the bomb. Now we got to hit them again. What's with this intelligence? Lack of intelligence, Jeff. And now we're going to basically give away the farm to these clowns. You know, Islam says lying is a punishable offense, just like Christianity. Thou shalt not lie, right? The problem is the Quran also says that under times of duress and in times of war, as long as your faith is true in your heart, you can lie. If anyone believes that Islam and this Islamo-fascist, you know, these fanatical lunatics will honor any deal, you're out of your mind. They are not going to honor anything that's in this deal. They will continue to pursue it. They will continue to work toward it because this is what their faith tells them to do. Wipe out the infidels, Jeff. That's what they want. They want to cleanse the Middle East of anyone that doesn't believe what they believe. And it starts with Israel. And how do they do that? One big strike, Jeff, a nuclear bomb. That's what they want. They've always wanted it. They want to be able to hit their enemies with the ultimate power. So anyone that believes this deal is ever going to work is either woefully ignorant or horrifically blinded.
Mark, I couldn't have said it better myself. And look, let me tell you what my big fear is. And this is not just me now. Many people are saying it. With the kind of cash that now potentially Iran could receive from this deal, you know, we're not talking about a billion here or a billion there, which is bad enough. We saw under Obama the kind of damage they could do with just 1.7 billion in cash on pallets. We're looking at hundreds of billions. Forget, making a bomb, developing a bomb, obtaining a bomb. Forgive me. They can just buy a bomb from Pakistan. Pakistan has already said publicly, if Iran needs the bomb, if you ever threaten to wipe out Iran, we will sell them a nuclear weapon. Pakistan has hundreds of nuclear weapons. You know, so Iran can put cash offer and just say, here, you know, we need a couple of nukes. How much? 10 billion? You got it. No problem. We'll transfer the money right now from our bank account to your bank account. The only question now is delivery. And can we make sure that the Americans don't know about it or the Israelis until the shipment is delivered? That's why, to me, the last thing you do is give this regime hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. You're begging for trouble. You're asking for trouble. And, look, Mark, honestly, you know me. Everybody can call in. I don't mind. I laugh. I think some of it is funny. You want to tease the Kuhner man. You want to attack the Kuhner man. You want to insult the Kuhner man. Honestly, it's water off a duck's back. But what has it gotten now in our country to the point now that I believe this is a horrible deal? I do not believe it's in the national interests of the United States, and nor is it in the political interests of my president. And if I say that, I'm a Benedict Arnold? I'm a traitor? Go back to Canada and take your bitch wife with you? Like, this is the level of tolerance and the level of civilized debate? So what that tells me is that they don't have a very strong case for this deal. Now, we can put our heads in the sand. Okay, we can do the Fox News. You know, they do that, especially the primetime shows, because they're just telling their audience what they want to hear. It's all great. It's all going to work out. Don't you worry. And, just keep watching so the advertising money comes in. But the American people, when they see this, and they will see it, when this thing comes out, politically, I don't see how Trump, his goose is cooked. It's going to kill him in the midterms. So to me, if something bad is going to happen, then talk about it and stop it from happening before it's too late. Mark, I've got a minute left. Am I wrong?
No, Jeff, you're 100% correct. And I could not agree with you more. I think that people have just gotten so divided that if your side says it's good, well, then it has to be good. And if their side says it's good, well, it has to be bad. We got to get away from that. We have to get back to taking an objective look at these things and saying, how is this going to help us? Like you said, how is giving them $300 billion going to help us? It doesn't. I don't want to build their nation. I want to leave it in rubble. I want to leave it in ruin. I want to see their military scattered across the desert in pieces. I don't want them to rebuild. I want the people to take their nation back. I'd rather take that $300 billion and arm the people that are in the streets.
Amen. By the way, there's a provision in there that says we can no longer interfere in Iran's internal affairs. Okay, I want to go right to the blazing phone calls, but before I do, Wednesday, 7:20, you know what that means. Truth or troll. Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
Today's entry for Truth or Troll comes from UFC fighter Josh Hogan, who after winning his fight at the White House UFC 250 event decided to call out who else but Michelle Obama.
Lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
All right, so here's the question.
I don't know why I crack up every time I hear it.
It is very funny, but is he just telling the truth here, or is he trolling? Because when I first heard this, I was like, that is the most random thing that I've ever heard after someone winning a UFC fight.
Oh, I think he's trolling. I know he's known for that. That's his shtick. Every time he wins a fight, he almost does like a comedy routine, in the post-fight interview. And so I don't want to play it again, but even you could tell in his voice, just the way he says it, it's like he's she's a man.
It's so random to where I wonder if someone, like one of his buddies, went up to him before. Oh, wouldn't it be funny if you win this fight and said something like that?
Exactly.
Like, I'll bet you $20 that you won't say it.
No, I think he was trolling. There may have been a little bit of truth in the sense that he really wants to stick it to her. But no, I think he was trolling. He was joking. And look, I got to tell you, everybody's talking about it. It's driven the libs absolutely insane. They can't let it go. The View, even with J.D. Vance, and by the way, J.D. yesterday on The View destroyed him. Absolutely destroyed him. Sonny Hostin, Anna Navarro, Whoopi Goldberg. He debated circles around him. It was clinical. It was surgical the way he took them apart. But even they were like, he called Obama a man. I mean, they can't let it go. You know, CNN, MS Now, none of them. They just can't let it go. So it was not just trolling. I think it was very effective, devastating trolling. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage. So the UFC heavyweight fighter, after he won his fight, Josh Hawkett, called Michelle Obama a man. Was he A, telling the truth? I mean, he really believes she's a man? Or B, you think he was just trolling? Joking around, trying to get under her skin and, you know, obviously the skin of so many Democrats and leftists around the country. I think it's B. That's my opinion. I want to hear from you, obviously. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in national ER. You can also vote via X. And yes, I was active on X last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Annie on the South Shore. Thanks for holding, Annie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. I have to tell you, the first time I have ever done this, I woke up this morning and listened to you rant and rave, which was fantastic because I felt the same way. But what happened was I was listening to this deal and I shut you off. And I sat for a few minutes and I thought to myself, it's not going to go away by shutting off the radio station and not listening to Jeff and the truth. So I turned you back on. And I sat and I listened and I sat here and I thought to myself, when this started, and Mr. President, if you're listening, or those who work with Mr. President, listen, at the beginning of this war, Mr. President, you said that you wanted to free the people of Iran because they were being killed, slaughtered, 30,000 of them, whatever. If they went against the government, if they protested, if they spoke out of turn, they were being killed. What's changed, Mr. President? The midterms, Jeff, I'm getting sick and tired of hearing we are giving Iran all of this stuff that you had explained this morning because of the midterms. I'm sick of it. Is this what you do, Mr. President? You give Iran, you give a country that kills their people, that affects the rest of the world, you give into them because of the midterms? Jeff, is this what's really happening?
And I know as people listen to the show, they're going to sign on Friday. I'm not going to change their mind. You're not going to change their mind. But I hope they tear up this deal. I really do. We don't need a deal. He doesn't need a deal. We can have no deal. He can come back and say all these accomplishments he achieved with the war in Iran. The one thing, and that I think he doesn't want to do for whatever reason, is use force to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. For whatever reason, he just doesn't want to do it. Okay, a lot of you are texting the Kuhner man saying, well, Jeff, how do we know this isn't part of an Iranian PSYOP operation whereby they're preemptively leaking certain parts of the memorandum or the interim peace agreement, whatever you want to call it, in order to try to hurt Trump politically? Well, this is the thing. The leaks are not coming from the Iranians. The Israelis got their hands on the document. The Israeli media were the first ones to leak. It's about a page and a half. So the document is out there. The text of the document is now out. Israel has gotten their hands on it. Then through Israeli media outlets, they have now revealed the contents of what's inside. And now you got the New York Post, which, by the way, you know, this is not, the New York Post is not the Washington Post or the New York Times. It's a conservative, very conservative paper. Actually, I like it. It's a well-written paper with a lot of good information. Very pro-Trump. I don't think you can get more pro-Trump than, frankly, the New York Post. And their editorial board, in fact, the entire paper has staunchly supported the war with Iran. They've been the biggest cheerleaders and backers of the war. And they're the ones who got their hands on it as well. And they're like, we're shocked, absolutely shocked at what's inside the deal. To the point that they wrote an unsigned editorial, which is the official position of the paper, saying to the president, for God's sake, it's my position, no deal. Like, please, don't even go to Switzerland. Just tear it up. You don't want this deal. It's going to kill you in every way. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Do another deal or just don't even do a deal. And their editorial, as they put it, says it gives Iran everything up front and gives us nothing. And that's essentially when you go through everything. So just super quick, okay? Because I want everybody to know what Iran gets out of this, just financially. It gives them financial relief. So when they sign on Friday, 2 days from today, right away, they can resume all oil sales through temporary sanctions waivers. So they're going to start selling oil right away. So they're going to get a lot of money just right out of the bat. Then the deal provides billions of dollars immediately to be handed over to Iran, an unspecified amount. There are rumors. I don't want to go into the rumors, but it's at least several billion that they will now have immediate access to these frozen Iranian assets the moment the deal is signed. So no matter what, just for signing this, they're going to be flush with cash. Now, furthermore, the United States lifts its naval blockade. Now, the Iranians are going to lift their blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. But that means now that Iran can trade. Their ports are now can receive goods. They can sell goods. They can import. They can export. And furthermore, it paves the way for a $300 billion reconstruction fund for Iran. $300 billion. When they finalize this after 60 days, all sanctions will be permanently lifted, and Iran will get access to all of the $100 billion in frozen assets. Plus, Iran and their ally Oman will then negotiate with the Persian Gulf states, from Saudi Arabia to Qatar to the UAE to Kuwait, new shipping and maritime security arrangements for all of their oil tankers and all of their commercial vessels, in which Iran will have the right to charge a fee. It's not a toll. They just call it a fee, but they're going to make billions and billions every month just off the fees. The bigger problem, forget the money just for a second, that means essentially they control the Strait of Hormuz, which is the world's most vital choke point. Now, they did not control the strait before the war. Before the war, you had unlimited free passage. Now, you have to go through a security maritime arrangement with the IRGC. So that's why everybody's saying, well, this actually leaves Iran in a stronger position. They now have control and influence over the Strait of Hormuz that they never had 4 months ago. Before that. Now, one last point. And then I want to go right back to the phone lines. They during the war, first day of the war, the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was killed, and much of the political leadership was decapitated. So now the son has taken over. The son is completely beholden to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. In reality, because of this, the hardliners are actually now more in control of Iran than they were 4 months ago. So the irony of all of this, that's why I said it's gone from victory to a surrender, or maybe that's too strong, but a defeat at the negotiating table. Iran now gets hundreds of billions of dollars. They can rebuild their entire country and their entire military. They have effective control over the Strait of Hormuz. And the hardliners are now more powerful and more influential than ever. How the hell did this happen? And this is after they lost every battle. They lost their Navy, they lost their Air Force, their air defenses, their ballistic missiles were dramatically degraded and reduced. Their military was smashed. The blockade was squeezing the life. It was choking them. It was strangling them. So the only answer I have is Trump wanted this over with quickly because he fears what's going to happen at the midterms. And he needs oil prices to come down fast, which it will, and just kick the can down the road with all these negotiations. And the Iranians held tough, and he threw in sweetener after sweetener, incentive after incentive, to the point now that, to me, I think clearly Iran has outmaneuvered us at the negotiating table. They get practically everything. We get next to nothing, except a pledge that they won't acquire a nuke. Well, big deal. And I go back to Annie's point. 40,000 Iranians were slaughtered, just a couple months ago. 40,000 dead. And we're talking, by the way, with the same leadership. The same leadership is still in power. So those poor, and by the way, this is the New York Post's point as well. It's not original to me. They're like, what happened to the 40,000 that were massacred? What happened to the poor Iranian people who are living under this brutal regime? They're the ones left twisting in the wind. Because what this deal clearly does, it leaves them in power. In some ways, stronger than ever. More secure than ever. Tear it up. Just tear it up. It's okay. Just tear it up. You can text the Kuhner Man 70470, 70470. Okay, let me ask you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Who really surrendered in the Iran conflict? A, Iran. B, the United States. Who do you think ultimately surrendered in the Iran conflict? A, Iran. B, the U.S. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, KUH at the Kuhner Report. Forgive me. At the Kuhner Report, KUH, N as in National ER. Angelo in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Angelo, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. How are you today?
Very good. How are you, Angelo?
Good. The UFC was pretty decent. I enjoyed that. Love the sport. Love the idea of the patriotism. It fell on some weak minds that they can't take a joke. But anyway, they'll get over it. So my thoughts on everything, Jeff, it's kind of Trump is in a very tough space because he doesn't want to lose the elections, and we all know all that's going on, but I wouldn't bend at the same time. So what's going on here? This is what happens when you have Muslims in the White House behind the scenes undermining our government. That's why they can't be in any position of our government.
Of authority, a position of power or position of authority.
If you're not born here, you should not be able to vote ever. Maybe when your kids are here, next generation, they can vote. But when you have other interests like they do against America, they're undermining us. He has no support. Congress, both sides, will not tolerate boots on the ground. So with that option already being said, we lost before we even started the fight. But that being said, Jeff, we can use the neighboring countries to get the boots on the ground, flush out that the hardliners and do it by air in the Navy just to get them up. We got to get them out. You don't negotiate with terrorists, and I wouldn't give them an inch. I would go in and get the job done with or without our allies. I'd go in, but we're being undermined by our own rhinos, the Muslims, radical Muslims in office, and we can't tolerate this. We got too much going on. I would take the gloves off and go wild. That's what I would do, and most Americans would do that. And at the same time, we're going to liberate the people who don't want to be under the thumb of a hardliner. They hate America. They hate the West. They hate themselves. They don't even know what they like, and they got to be taken care of. If we don't do it now, it's going to come and burn us again. Forget the midterms. I would say it's already a loss. We're already at a loss. We have no patriotism with these people in. Every turn, they don't know what a boy and a girl is, and they're going to tell us how to win a war. Just go do it. Take the gloves off, and that's it. Win or lose.
Well, Angelo, look, that's I've been saying this now for weeks. You and I are on the same page. I said, look, resume the bombing. I said, go ahead, finish them off, finish the job. See, look, if I was to use a sporting analogy, okay, let's just use football, because I know soccer is big now because of the World Cup, but let's be honest, the number one sport in the United States, God bless it, is football. To me, the war is sort of like, it's like the first half. We dominated the first half. We won the first half, no question. And now in the second half, we're basically giving the game away. That's how I see the negotiations. I'm like, no, you got to, as Mike always says to me, because he's a big football fan, you got to play all four quarters. You can't just put your foot off the pedal after after halftime and say, hey, we're up by 3 touchdowns. We've got this thing in the bag. No, you got to go third quarter, fourth quarter. You got to finish it. We're not finishing. That's the problem. And look, Angelo, he's got a problem now. And this is his problem. And I think he's starting to sense it because he's talking a little bit differently now at the G7. He's threatening the Iranians more. He's saying, I'm more than happy to resume bombing if they violate the agreement. He was more conciliatory the last couple days. Now he's sounding more hawkish. This is the problem now. And I'm just laying out objectively what took place. I'm not saying I'm for one side or the other because I think for myself. When the war started, his coalition began to fracture. Some of the people that helped him win in 2024, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, these prominent influential podcasters, deserted him on the war. They thought it was a bad idea from the beginning, and they went after Trump. Trump went after them and basically said, you guys are no longer MAGA, and he kicked them out of the MAGA movement. So the anti-war people in his coalition turned on him. Now what's starting to happen as the details of this memorandum of understanding are coming out. I recommend everybody, you got to read a piece in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. General Keane, one of the key architects of the war, someone who's been advising Trump for most of the war, has now come out against this deal and says he's very disappointed in Trump. Lindsey Graham, who was the biggest cheerleader for this war, who advised him on the war, who was even in the Situation Room during parts of this war, is now privately leading a massive revolt against this deal. You now have people in the media, Mark Levin, one of the biggest supporters of the war, by the way, called me a traitor. Literally called me a traitor and a woke Nazi. I'm a Nazi because I was skeptical of the war from the beginning, saying, I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk the way everybody's saying it is. So even though I lost half my family in the Holocaust, slaughtered by the Nazis, okay, he called me a woke, a Third Reich Nazi. So, but anyway, let that go. Now he's against the deal. Oh my God, is he against the deal? He's calling it the mother of all betrayals. So Levin is now against it. Now you have Ben Shapiro, another big supporter of the war, big supporter of the president, He's come out and said, we've lost the war. You signed this deal. This is a massive strategic loss and defeat for the United States. Republicans in Congress behind the scenes are saying, we cannot support this deal. We're not going to support it. It's going to go down, in flames if this goes to a vote in Congress. So he's lost now Republican hawks who were his biggest, staunchest supporters. So now the problem is his coalition is fracturing on all fronts. He alienated the anti-war people. Now he's disillusioned and alienated the hawks. This is politically it's bad, strategically it's bad, militarily it's bad, financially it's bad. You got to cut your losses. I understand where the president's coming from. I get it. I want him to win the midterms too, of course. But this is not going to help him win the midterms. Now, the other part of the provision, and Angelo, thank you so much for that call. Look, let me tell you something else I can't stand in the provisions of this deal. It's right there in black and white. It says clearly that should they make a final agreement after 60 days, the United States is obligated, legally obligated, to withdraw all of its forces from the Persian Gulf within 30 days. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? That's what Iran has wanted from the beginning, to kick us out of the Persian Gulf. Why would we possibly in any way want to agree to that? At a bare minimum, you want to keep some of our forces there in case they break the deal, they violate the deal. We may have to bomb them again. We may have to reopen the strait on our own if they decide to block it again or blockade it again. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, it takes away all of our leverage. All of our leverage. And you're going to pour hundreds of billions of dollars into the mullahs, into their pockets and into their treasury. For what? Their enriched uranium is under the rubble of tons of rubble under 3 nuclear sites. They're not going to be able to touch that uranium for years. They don't have enrichment capacity now because we've dismantled and destroyed their entire nuclear program. So even if we get concessions on paper, in reality, we've already destroyed their nuclear program. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, it's just a piece of paper. We don't need this piece of paper. I mean, it's nice to have it, of course, but not if you're going to give up this much. Am I wrong? Mags in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mags, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff, and as always, God bless you, Sandy and Mike.
Thank you, Mags.
You're a billion times right this morning. A billion times, okay? Let's get this done. Let's go in, finish them off. Whoever's there is left in Iran. They should have been gone knowing that we were coming after them. We need to go, finish this off, not signing the agreement, not do anything. Our military needs to go in there and finish this job. We are not going to surrender. We're the United States of America. Come on, Trump. He should have finished this off weeks ago. I'm not very popular right now, I'm sure, and I don't care, Jeff. I'm not a warmonger, but I believe in the United States of America, and we should have already won this war. This is disgusting that we're at this point. Disgusting.
Mags, I want to ask you, and this to me now is the all-important question, and I'd love to have the president for an interview, 5 minutes. This is the question I would ask him. For some reason, because as I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but the nuclear program has been shattered. Okay? He set it back. He set it back at least 10 years. I know he wanted to get it done permanently, but look, fine. Nothing in life is permanent. But, okay, he set it back 10 years. Huge victory. What's really at stake is the Strait of Hormuz. He wants it fully reopened. I get it. Gas prices come down, oil comes down, inflation comes down. It's good for the world economy. It's good for our economy. Obviously, we need that going into the midterms. I get it. But he doesn't want to use force to reopen the strait. It's clear now. The generals gave him a plan. General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, gave him a plan. He said, look, there could be casualties. It's obvious. You're coming into the strait. We are going to take drone attacks, missile attacks. Some of our sailors could be killed, no question. But we can do this, Mr. President. And we can keep it then permanently, fully reopened as long as you want the Navy patrolling the Strait of Hormuz. So we can militarily force the issue and take it out of the hands of the mullahs, where we don't need their permission. We control the strait, period. And we militarily, by using force, we reopen the strait. Why is Trump so reluctant to do it? He clearly doesn't want to do it. And he gave an interview to Fox. And I just want to say this and get your take. He was talking about Karg Island. But in general, he said, we could take Karg Island. He goes, and personally, I want to take Karg Island. That would control Iran's oil. But he said that would lead to casualties. I know there would be casualties. And this is what he said. Americans don't have the stomach for casualties in war. And I would lose the American people and my presidency would be finished. So I'm not going to take Karg Island. And I'm asking myself, is he thinking the same thing about the strait? Not just the island, but the whole strait? Yeah, I could take it, but there would be casualties. Maybe dozens dead, maybe 100 dead, maybe 200 dead, well, whatever it would be. And the American people don't have the stomach for that. And then my presidency is over. So I got to go to the negotiating table, and to get the Iranians to sign, I have to make massive concessions. So my question to you, Mags, why is Trump, A, so afraid to use the military to reopen the strait? And B, is it because, in a way, he's right? Have the American people lost their stomach for casualties, to lose our sailors or soldiers if we were to try to retake the strait? What say you?
Jeff, I don't want to see any of our people killed either. I don't want anybody to ever think that. I don't want to see us go into war. But at this point, we've already been there. I don't understand why we walked away without finishing the job. And I don't know what his fear is, but he's losing all of his people because this is the thing. We don't want him to sign anything. We know the Iranians are evil people. They're not gonna concede on anything that is written down. They don't care. Dean earlier and Mark from New Hampshire said it clearly. These people are awful individuals. They're never going to do anything that they've signed up for. We need to finish this job. Trump, you're going to lose the midterms because you don't finish this job. Get it done. I'm sorry for being so serious this morning, Jeff, but this is very serious, and I'm unfair for the country, for our own country. Oh,
I agree. Look, oh my God. I mean, to me, the Democrats winning in November, that's a nightmare. That's a national nightmare. To me, that's why I'm like, look, please, just no deal. Even believe I'm with you. Finish the job. Even if you don't want to finish the job, just don't do this deal. Don't give them that kind of money. It's not worth it. Because I'm telling you, the American people are not going to go for this. Look, forget. All they have to hear is $300 billion reconstruction fund. That's it. Never mind the $100 billion in frozen assets they're eventually going to get, billions of dollars up front. Never mind they're going to control the Strait of Hormuz and charge a fee. I could go on and on. So all they hear is $300 billion reconstruction fund, and they're like, no, absolutely not. Now, again, to be fair, it's not our money. It's not a cent of American money. There's no U.S. taxpayer dollars, or this is all going to be coming from the Gulf states. They're the ones who are going to, pony up all the cash for this $300 billion fund. That's fine. I get that. And J.D. Vance is saying it's got to be performance-based. They're only going to get it if they agree to provisions in the 60-day negotiations. But the point is, nobody wants to give them $300 billion. It's like giving Hitler $300 billion. I don't care whether it comes from us or people from Mars. I don't want that regime getting $300 billion. Oh, my God. You're guaranteeing 100 years of terrorism if you give them $300 billion. I don't care whose money it is. So, look, at a bare minimum, redo the deal and take out the $300 billion in the fund, the $300 billion reconstruction fund. But that's the big carrot. That's the big incentive. That's why they put it in there, because they think that'll bribe Iran to the finish line, to just sign on the uranium and on their enrichment and on other issues. Anyway, we'll see. But I'm with you, Mags. He takes this deal to the American people. A, it's going down in Congress. B, it's going to cost him the midterms. Mags, thank you so much for that call. Bob in Raynham. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Bob, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Trying to get you up. Speaker. So I was going through my phone yesterday, some old photos, and I remember taking a picture of gas in January, and it was $2.53 a gallon. The midterms are gone. There's no recovering from the midterms, which means MAGA and President Trump's agenda is gone. To me, President Trump was duped by Netanyahu into attacking Iran. We had eliminated their capability for, like you said, probably 10 to 15 years back in June of last year. And now all this further action has just destroyed our economy. Has, every time people go to the gas pump, they see that gas price and they pay attention to that every single time. And again, unfortunately, President Trump has really, I think he got fooled by Netanyahu. I can hear Netanyahu in speeches calling Trump the great American president, which of course, swells his head up is like a balloon. And I think he's really let us down.
Well, Bob, look, I said this many times on the air. As an historian, I'm just, I'm going to be very fair. I love this president. I'm going to vote for him. I mean, I can't vote for him personally, but I'm going to vote for the Republicans in November. I think he was infinitely better than Hillary, than Biden, than Kamala. He's got incredible successes, even in this second term. I've seen, if you want, I'll go over them. Okay, President Trump is in France for the G7 summit. As the details now of this deal, this memorandum of understanding, MOU, as it's being called, now start to get leaked. He's taking more and more questions from the media. And the point that he just made, and it's a valid point, he and J.D. Vance have both made this point, and they're right. Okay, they're right. That this reconstruction fund, $300 billion reconstruction fund, does not have a dime, a cent in U.S. taxpayer money. That's true. So it's not like we're paying for it. It's primarily the Gulf states that are going to pony up the $300 billion. Okay, the Saudis are, flush with cash. Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain. Those are the countries that are going to each put in whatever, 40, 50 billion apiece, and there's your 300 billion. But I don't want them to get the $300 billion. To me, that's what matters. I don't care where the money comes from. I just don't want them to get the 300 bill. Because then they can rebuild their entire country, rebuild their economy, rebuild their military, and they'll be back in 3, 4, 5 years stronger than ever. Now, it's contingent upon them not developing a nuclear weapon or, dismantling their enrichment capacity. I understand it's performance-based. But the fact of the matter is, you give the mullahs $300 billion. They're going to be $300 billion richer. That's going to leave them in a much stronger position. And then you throw in the $100 billion in frozen assets that they're also going to get at the end of this negotiation. And then you throw in the control of the Strait of Hormuz with the fees, this arrangement that they're going to have with these Persian Gulf countries. You're looking at $500-600 billion. You honestly think that they're suddenly now going to become the Switzerland of the Middle East? I don't think so. So all we're doing is now rearming or rebuilding Iran so the mullahs eventually will come back stronger than ever. That's the fundamental flaw in the deal. Anyway, at least as far as I'm concerned. And I'm telling you, that's why it's not going to pass Congress. It's not just Jeff Kuhner. Believe me, the opposition now to this deal is growing and growing by the second. 617-266-6868. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
I agree
Bill.
with you. I don't even think that it's not really a deal. You keep calling it a deal. It's more like a press release. I don't even think it's going to make it to Friday. It's never making it to Congress. But what bothers me is what you're describing. If you get your way, what you're describing is the U.S. Navy stationed in the Gulf administering the strait forever. And that's hard to make that into a win. I don't see that as a big win for us.
Well, our Navy, but Bill, come on, let's get serious. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, are we serious or are we not serious? Our Navy patrols the Red Sea. Our Navy patrols the Persian Gulf. Our Navy patrols the Pacific. They patrol the Atlantic. So we have a Navy that projects power all over the world. To put in a couple of extra aircraft carriers or battleships into the Strait of Hormuz is A, no skin off our back. B, and you should know this, if not, again, as usual, you're very badly informed. The French have come out yesterday saying they're going to help us patrol the Strait of Hormuz. The Brits said they're going to use the Royal Navy to help us patrol the Strait of Hormuz. The Europeans have said they're more than happy to help us patrol the Strait of Hormuz. So it wouldn't just be us. If we were to forcibly reopen the strait and then demine it and patrol it, it would be with the full backing of NATO, the Europeans, the Gulf states, and other countries. So, it's just not true. Now, look, I'll be frank. You supported the Obama-Iran deal. You have no moral authority or credibility to lecture me or Trump on anything. Your guy nuked up the Ayatollahs. He sent them nearly $2 billion illegally in cash on pallets, which they used to A, build up their secret nuclear weapons program and fund terrorist proxies across the Middle East that got American soldiers killed, countless innocent civilians killed, and you called up repeatedly and said it was the greatest deal we ever had. So the only reason why we're in the Middle East is because of you and Obama and people like you. And yet you have the gall to say, it's a press release, it's this. Look, you created this problem. Obama created this problem. Trump inherited this problem. And the way to solve it is to forcibly reopen the strait. And on this, the world is with us. 617-266-6868 is the number. Tony in Florida. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, my fellow patriot. How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Tony?
Doing good, thanks, Jeff. Jeff, I have to disagree with you and most of your callers this morning. I am with President Trump all the way. We as a country, we hold all the cards here, all the cards. If they misbehave by just a hair, we're going to take him down again. Now, let's just say he pulls all the ships out of there. Well, if we remember Midnight Hammer, he can send those jets from Missouri to drop a little treat on their lap if we need to. But we always have that. We hold all the cards. President Trump, Jeff, and we're all entitled to our opinion. That's the beautiful, beautiful thing about our country, right? But President Trump, Jeff, is, to me, the greatest president in the history of the world. It's not even close. I trust him 1,000%. He's always going to do the right thing for our country. He's not going to do anything to put us in harm's way. And he's absolutely doing the right thing here. Now, with all due respect, Jeff, to you and everybody, all of us, we're not in the Situation Room with this man and with the handful of people he has in there. We don't really know 100% everything that's in this deal until he said he was going to announce it word for word. He was going to read it to the American people on Friday. That's the last thing he said. But Jeff, I really do trust him, 100%. I know that he's not going to do anything to put us in any harm. He wants to get, he definitely wants to keep our men and women in the military safe. Losing one person is too many. We did lose some in this since this conflict started. Unfortunately, our hearts go out to them. We love the veterans. But he doesn't want to further this. But here's the thing, Jeff, if they step out of line just one here, he's going to take them out. I mean, we hold all the cards. This president is doing the right thing. The deal is a great deal. He said he was only going to make the deal if it's a great deal. And I just trust him completely, Jeff, completely.
Well, I understand that you trust him because, look, he's got a very impressive record. I've been saying that for days now. I think he's got a lot of success that he can sell to the American people when it comes to the midterms. He secured the border. He stopped Biden's border invasion. He's now really ramped up deportations. Illegal aliens are flying out of the country. In fact, many Americans don't know this, but for the first time in something like 100 years, we have a negative net migration. Negative net migration. That means more people are leaving the country than are coming into the country. We haven't had that in 100 years. The homicide rate, the murder rates are at a record low. Record low. Ever since we've been gathering statistics, the crime rate, the murder rates, the homicide rates have never been lower. So on law and order, he has succeeded. On the border, he has succeeded. On deportations, it's not over, obviously. There are many more illegals to deport, but he is clearly succeeding. There's no question. The highest energy production in the history of the United States. We are now producing more oil, more natural gas than ever. We are now, under Trump, an energy superpower. We now produce more oil and natural gas, double that of Saudi Arabia or Russia. In fact, we produce more oil and natural gas than Saudi Arabia and Russia, and that's second and third. So that's the second power and the third power combined. Okay, combined. I know inflation is at 4%, 4.2, 4.3, but we know that's because of the war in Iran. The minute the war ends, and it's ending, you're already seeing gas prices come down, oil come down. Inflation is going to be back down, I believe, very quickly to 2%, 2.5%. So, unlike Biden, who had 9% inflation for years, Trump is going to tame the inflation issue very, very quickly. Wages, the media is not reporting this. Wage growth is now up again. Americans are taking home more money. And once you get inflation down, you're going to be taking home more money than prices are increasing. So he's putting more money in the pockets of working middle class people. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. We're now seeing the latest job numbers are exceeding all expectations. The stock market just yesterday hit a record all-time high. The highest it's ever been in history. Trillions, literally trillions of dollars in investment are pouring into our country. Manufacturing is coming back. Factories are coming back. So what I'm saying is he has a phenomenal record to run on. There's no question. I'm just telling you, this deal, and you said to me, I love the deal. My question to you, Tony, is what about the deal do you like? Because outside of a pledge that Iran will not pursue a nuclear weapon, which they've given in the past repeatedly, this deal gives us nothing. Everything depends on the mullahs, the negotiations over the next 60 to 90 days. And that only depends on whether they're willing to make these concessions. If they don't make these concessions, do you honestly believe that Trump in September or in October, on the eve of the midterms, is going to bomb Iran? I don't think he will. That's where I think they've got him. And I think he panicked. If you want the truth, I think he panicked. He looked at the polls. He's very unpopular on the war. He's unpopular on inflation. He's unpopular on oil and gas prices. And he sees the Democrats potentially coming back and they're going to impeach him. They're going to impeach the hell out of him. And so what he said was, give me a quick deal. Give me a partial deal. Just get me a deal so I can get out. And I think that's what we have, Tony. So, I said it before. I think, look, Reagan was a great president. Great president. He also made great mistakes. He had great achievements, but he also made great mistakes. FDR was a, very successful president. He made huge mistakes. Lincoln, one of our greatest presidents, he made huge mistakes. So a great leader is not someone who's infallible, who's always right no matter what. It's the opposite. A great leader is someone who's great. He has great virtues, great flaws. He has great accomplishments, but great failures. And the question is, how does he bounce back from these failures? And I would love to see President Trump be humble enough and say, this deal, it don't work. This deal, maybe it started off with the best of intentions, but guys, boys, we gave Iran too much, and we gave Iran too much up front. Tony, final word to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Here's the thing: if Iran steps out of line at all, it's going to take Trump about, at the most, 5 minutes to finish them. It's not going to affect the midterms. In fact, I will tell you right here and now, Jeff, that we are going to expand the lead in the House and the Senate. You can take that one to the bank, Jeff. We're going to do it. And again, it's going to take him 5 minutes to finish them if he needs to.
Oh, Tony,
I believe that,
from your lips to God's ears, I hope you're right. Tony, if we expand our majorities in the House and in the Senate, Jim in New Hampshire, I know you've been holding patiently, Jim. Thank you and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, here I am again with a little different take on things.
Yes, good. Go ahead, Jim.
So, I hate to say it, but the MAG independents, again, were vindicated. I think the lies are confronted with the truth. So when I said the 12-day war was a problem, well, the Iran war exposed the lies of the 12-day war, saying, we destroyed all the nuclear facilities, we're done with this. Well, that wasn't the case. So we get involved in the Iran war, and then the new narrative is, we opened the strait, it's easy, not a problem, we already won the war, we destroyed all the military, navy. Well, the truth is this. Look at the agreement. The agreement clearly shows a loss. And I think finally Trump is acknowledging to the public where we're at. He's peeked behind the door. He has the information. He knows what is door number two. And let me tell you what door number two is. Door number two is, we do send American troops into Cargill, and they die by the thousands. It's not an easy, if you look, anyone who knows war and studies war, look at it, it's a fact. Israel's civilization is going to deal with more mass murder, more bombs. Thousands will die in Iran, many thousands, and whether you care about those people or not, a lot of people say they want them liberated. Well, that's not liberating them. We still have a massive tech disparity that we have not addressed enough. They have drones, they have missiles, they're underground, they're massively cheap and easy to produce. We use multi-million-dollar weapons to take these down. That doesn't last, and it didn't last, and that's why we had to end this war and have a ceasefire as long as we did. We'll have a far worse economy and affordability. So if you think it's bad now, well, wait for $200 a gallon, $200 a barrel. We'll be seeing that. And I keep saying, oh, yeah, the nuclear option is a possibility. It is a possibility. I don't know, but that's worst case. I already said plenty of things before that are really terrible. And I'm the type of person, Jeff, I believe in God, country, party, man. When a man to me has failed, I'm sorry. His policy in this war to me was, that's it. I believe now I'm with the party. I'm with the MAGA part of the party. I want to see that. I need to see that because the next level is country and God. I will always choose God above my country. I'll always choose my country above party. I'm an American. I love Americans, whether you're red or blue, whether I agree with you or disagree with you. I love this country. But because when I learned about this country, whether Joe down the road Democrat or Dave down the road Republican, we kind of want the same things. We kind of want the safety and security for our kids. We kind of don't want to get involved in endless wars. We kind of want to drain the swamp. We kind of want to afford life. And that's what MAGA was to me, Jeff. MAGA was that. MAGA was not choosing Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham over Tucker Carlson and Thomas Massey. Because you know who those people are? Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham, and Ben Shapiro. They, to me, are worse than a democratic socialist. They are worse than a communist. I'll tell you why. Because they destroy a party from within. And those are the people that have pushed this to us, to this situation where we have two terrible options. They have made it far worse than any Democrat would with their, like, oh, I want to have a woman in sport issue. That's not going to kill a party. But taking us into a war that has taken our empire down and made us look terrible on the world stage will. And those are the people that were supported. Those are the people I want out. Again, Jeff, God, country, party, man. Got to focus on the party now. The party's come at the midterms. I know you don't like the deal, but I hate to tell you door number two. Trump knows. Finally, he's acknowledging the truth of door number two. Door number two is actually worse than door number one, which we're seeing in the deal. But the reality, too, I'm going to throw this in there very quickly, is Israel and Lebanon is still an issue. That whole thing it could set off in any moment. It probably will. So we might not even have a deal. And the deal, let's remember, it's agreement to have an agreement to have an agreement. It's not even set in stone, and it's just agreement.
You're right. No, you're right. It's a memorandum of understanding. It's not even an agreement. You're completely right. Look, Jim, I'm not trying to be the skunk at the party here, but it's getting to the point where people are saying, well, I'm for it or I'm against it. Congress is not going to pass it. I'm telling you. First of all, the Democrats are going to vote against it just because it's got Trump on it. So to spite Trump, they're going to vote against it. Okay, that's number one. So already you got a slim majority in the House and 3 votes or 4 votes in the Senate. I'm telling you, as things stand right now, at least half of all Republicans in Congress are against this memorandum of understanding. Because now the problem is the Tucker Carlsons, you mentioned them, they're the ones who are against the war from the beginning. Now the problem is everybody you're mentioning, Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham, all these other war hawks, General Keane, Ben Shapiro, they're against this deal. They want to kill this deal. Lindsey Graham now wants to kill the deal. Bibi wants to kill the deal. Pro-Israel lawmakers want to kill the deal. Republican hawks want to kill the deal. John Thune now says in private he wants to kill this deal. So the problem now is, where's he going to get the votes to pass this in Congress? And federal law is crystal clear. Any agreement with Iran is regarding its nuclear program must be reviewed and then voted on by Congress. It's a law passed in 2015, the Iran Nuclear Review Act. So he's going to have to send this, no matter what, to Congress for approval. Well, whatever they agree to at the end. He's not going to have the votes. He never will have the votes. So to me, this is why I'm against the deal. Whether you like it or not, it's going down. It's not going to pass because Congress is not going to pass it. And then you're going to have the baggage of a $300 billion reconstruction fund, of having conceded the precedent that the Iranians now effectively will control and regulate the Strait of Hormuz. you will have conceded that Hezbollah can remain in Lebanon. And Hezbollah is there as a colonizing power in Lebanon. As the president of Lebanon said to the Iranians, get out of my country. Hezbollah has no business being here. Get out. And Israel is in southern Lebanon because Hezbollah is in Lebanon. So as the president of Lebanon said, Hezbollah leaves, then Israel leaves, and we can have our country back. So it doesn't matter on every single level. It's a bad deal. And Trump now is going to be branded with the bad aspects of this deal. The best thing that you can possibly now do, even if you don't want to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, fine. Just go home. That's it. Just go home. By the way, he's going to have NATO behind him if they want to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. China wants the Strait of Hormuz open. Russia wants the Strait of Hormuz open. Asia wants the Strait of Hormuz open. India wants the Strait of Hormuz opened. So what I'm saying is you can get an international coalition to put a couple of ships in and say, no. We're going to make sure that there's safe, free passage so everything goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So even if he doesn't want to militarily do it over several months, he can get an international coalition and everything's going to go nice and free through the Strait of Hormuz. So to me, don't even sign a deal. Don't do anything. And just stick to the facts. Is their nuclear program degraded? Yes. Did he set it back 10 years? Yes. Is Iran's economy in big trouble? Yes. Are the mullahs now on the ropes because of their economic turmoil? Yes. Has their military been destroyed? Yes. Is Iran now militarily, economically, in terms of their nuclear program, much weaker now than they were 4 months ago? Yes. The only thing that they have is control over the Strait of Hormuz and President Trump feeling he needs their signature on a peace agreement. That's their leverage. That's their only leverage. So what I'm saying is take away their leverage. But don't sign a deal that is going to haunt you, I believe, for years to come. And it's not a question of whether you like it or I like it or anybody. The moment the American people hear, that's all they got to hear, $300 billion reconstruction fund. That's it. It's over. Now, Trump can say it's not our money, which is true. No taxpayer dollars, which is true. It's $300 billion to the mullahs. Nobody wants to give $300 billion to the mullahs. And they're going to conclude, rightly, this war wasn't worth it. So what? They could end up getting $300 billion? Never mind an extra $100 billion from the frozen assets? Never mind now potentially fees from the Gulf states for even just, for their oil tankers and ships and vessels to go through the strait? I mean, they're going to be drowning in money. So you're going to now see a much wealthier, stronger, militarily powerful Iran within 5 years. And so 13 service members died for what? We took a lot of economic pain and punishment for what? We've depleted our arsenal, our interceptors, our missiles for what? So the mullahs can get $300 billion? It won't fly with the American people, and frankly, it shouldn't fly. Anyway, just my opinion, Jim. Okay, joining me now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Dr. Grace, as you know, you and I have had some disagreements about this war, going back 4 months since it started. I was a skeptic, but you were a dead set against it from the beginning. I've got to ask you now, the terms of this memorandum of understanding that have now been leaked, has Trump now snatched defeat from the jaws of victory? What say you?
Jeff, this morning, and as the deal and more information comes out, we can say clearly one thing. All of us who oppose the war have been completely and utterly vindicated. We said that this was going to be a disaster for the United States. We feared it was going to be a disaster for President Trump. And sadly, very sadly, we have been proven correct. Jeff, this is a disaster in every way. Rubio said something very telling a while ago. He said that Iran's control of the strait is the equivalent of an economic nuclear bomb. So what this war showed the Iranians is that they have tremendous power. They went from being a regional power that was a menace in the Middle East to now being able to threaten the entire world. That is what we face right now. And this deal is basically going to consolidate and validate that position by giving them a ton of money and giving them the ability to exact a toll, a fee, whatever you want to call it, over the Strait of Hormuz. So we have elevated Iran from a regional power to now a global threat. So the president has achieved the opposite of what he said he was going to do. This is a catastrophe. This is America's Suez Canal. That's what it is. It's like what happened with the British in 1956. They realized that they had to withdraw, and now Trump has very little choice but to retreat, because he basically campaigned as a non-interventionist, as somebody who wasn't going to start any wars, as somebody who was going to keep us out of wars, but he decided instead, in the second term, to break that promise and to engage in imperialism and interventionism around the world. And so he got himself stuck. He entered a den of vipers, because that's what the Middle East is. That's what we said. Just don't get involved. It's a den of vipers. What happens when you enter a den of vipers? There's only two outcomes. Either you get bit by the vipers and you die, or you have to become a viper. And the more he was getting involved in this, he decided, you know what? I don't want to be a viper, meaning I don't want to actually bomb and kill more people, and I don't want any more American casualties. So the minute he decided, okay, I'm not going to be a viper, well, now he's going to be bitten to death by the vipers. And that's why we told him, don't get involved. And to be honest with you, Jeff, he did not listen to good counsel, and he is in a whole world of hurt right now.
Grace, why... I mean, I've said it many times on the show today, but I think it's the question historians are going to ask decades from now. And I think even you would acknowledge this, as fierce critic of the war. Look, he shattered their nuclear program. He clearly set it back a generation. I think there's no denying that. Militarily, Iran was devastated. Their Navy, their Air Force, their missile stockpiles, their defenses, their air radar, their air defenses, their radar systems. I mean, everything was smashed. Really, I mean, absolutely smashed. Their political leadership decapitated. The Ayatollah assassinated. Their economy now is coming completely undone. The blockade was strangling them. So economically, militarily, politically, it was, blow after blow. He defeated them again and again. All he had to do was reopen the strait, and his victory he would have been triumphant. But he has been reluctant to forcibly reopen the strait, to use the Navy, our powerful Navy, and we have aircraft carriers that cost, I'm not kidding, $120 billion from start to finish, $120 billion. We have the most powerful aircraft carriers in the world, the most powerful warships in the world. But he doesn't want to use them to forcibly reopen the strait. Why?
Well, Jeff, because the whole thing has been a lie. The whole thing has been a lie. And now it's clear it's been a lie, because he told us that they were 2 weeks away from the bomb. But in subsequent interviews, he has revealed, no, It's impossible. They were not 2 weeks away from the bomb. How do we know that? Because he has said, this has come out of his own mouth, that the Iranians cannot access the enriched uranium that is under the ground because 3 mountains have fallen upon it after Midnight Hammer. It would take years for them to get this enriched uranium out of the ground. Only the Chinese and the Americans can have access to this enriched uranium. We are the only ones that have the capacity. If that's the case, it means that after Midnight Hammer, Iran was never 2 weeks away from the bomb. So we were lied into this project. He knows that. And so now he knows that he doesn't want more American boys and more American men and women to die based on a lie that was perpetuated to the public. He also has a profound identity crisis. For decades, he was a non-interventionist. He was one that was going to keep us out of the wars. He was one that was not going to wage war. He was one that was not going to get us involved abroad. All of a sudden, he's an imperialist. There's no country that he doesn't want to stick his nose in. So he has a profound identity crisis, and he's been vacillating. And because of that, at this moment, this whole thing has been full of half measures, and he's satisfying nobody. He's really upset the anti-war people like me, and now he's upset all the war hawks because he hasn't gone far enough. And that's what happens when you break your promises, when you don't stick to what you said you were going to campaign on, and when you don't listen to good advice. He and Pete Hegseth, they just disregarded what our own intelligence community told them. They told them, you're not going to topple the regime. Even the Kurds told them that. You're not going to topple the regime. They're very deep. They also told them they're going to block the Strait of Hormuz. And guess what? Hegseth and Trump, they own this war. This is a catastrophe. It will go down as one of the biggest blunders in American foreign policy. And sadly, it's going to cost Trump and MAGA a tremendous amount in months and years to come. My fear, too, now, if I were Vance, I would get the hell out of the way. I would not be the spokesperson for this peace deal. I would tell the president, listen, in private, I told you not to do this. Don't put me out there now having to defend this thing. You're going to wrap this thing around my neck?
No, that's too late. I mean, he's everywhere defending this. And to be honest with you, and you know how much I love JD. I want him to be the nominee, and I want him to be the next president. I love JD. You know that. Privately, how often I talk about JD and my admiration for him. But he's saying things now. He's overselling this. I mean, it's, Iran's leadership has been transformed. That's what he said. This deal will transform Iran. It will transform the Middle East. I'm like, buddy, whoa, slow. You're getting way ahead of your skis. Whoa, easy now. So I think it may even be too late for JD. But anyway, we'll see. Grace, look, 1 minute left. Ultimately, as succinctly as possible, why did Trump decide to go to war? Why? What was the reason for him to go to war? In your view, why?
The reason was his ego got huge, okay? He saw that Netanyahu was getting tremendous credit for starting to dominate the situation. He had control over the skies in Iran, and he was being celebrated as a hero. And then Trump didn't want all the praise to go to Netanyahu, so he decided to strike with Midnight Hammer and get involved. At the time, I was one of the few analysts that said, don't even do that. The Israelis know what they're doing in the Middle East. Just stay out. You do one thing, you have to do more and more and more. And the danger now is if Iran gets bigger as a result of the money that's going to pour into them, we're going to get sucked further in because the other Gulf states are going to need our help against Iran. So this is what we said from the beginning. It's a den of vipers. Stay the hell away. How many times do we have to learn this lesson?
So ultimately, you say it's arrogance and hubris. You think that's what brought him into the war, correct?
Definitely, and...
Okay, well, leave out the and because Mike just cut you off. Okay, according to the New York Post, and they've been driving this story very hard over the last couple of days, again, pro-Trump, pro-Iran war. I don't think you can get more pro-Trump or more pro-Iran war, frankly, than the New York Post. They are now reporting that J.D. Vance, the vice president, has now said that the Iran deal could be reversed if there is, quote unquote, an utter meltdown over the terms. Now, he said this in an interview with Megyn Kelly yesterday, Tuesday, where she pressed him, hey, look, there's a lot of concern that this may give too much, too quickly or too much up front to the Islamic Republic of Iran. And so if there's a lot of pushback, and especially in Congress, but among many of your staunchest supporters, you've already signed it. It's not legally binding, but you have signed it. It is a diplomatic agreement. And so she said, look, if people freak out, if there's an utter meltdown here in the United States, I'm reading verbatim now, could it be undone, in your view? And Vance said, yes, exactly. And he said, look, we want the Iranians to change the way that they behave. This is Vance. With regards to their nuclear weapons, with regards to their financing of terrorism, we are going to bring them into the world economy. If they don't, we won't. It's really that simple. So Vance is saying, no, look, if people really are upset about this and it's, there's so much blowback and the Iranians clearly, aren't interested in transforming themselves or changing their behavior, we'll sink this thing in no time. So that's good to hear. Furthermore, today in France at the G7 summit, President Trump came out and said it's not final. That it is a memorandum of understanding. Again, basically they're saying it's not legally binding. So he's saying, whoa, I know there's a lot of people are upset about this. Easy. He said, look, if I don't like it, or if we continue with negotiations and we see this thing is just not going anywhere fast, President Trump said, we'll go back to shooting at them, dropping bombs on their heads. If I don't like it, I'm reading verbatim now, and they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head. So both the president now and the vice president are saying maybe this deal is not so final. So look, as I said to Sandy when we were off air, I think there's so much opposition now building to some of the terms, especially among Republicans in Congress. I think they're starting to realize, this dog don't hunt. Maybe it seemed better, but now as it comes into the light of day, and again, it's the $300 billion reconstruction fund. I mean, I have to be careful because things were said to me in off the record, but I don't know if you can get stronger supporters of Trump than the people I spoke to. And they both said to me that $300 billion fund has to go. But I love the guy. I would go to march to the gates of hell and back for him. But that $300 billion, that's got to go. I mean, that's got to go. It's unacceptable. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Opposition is building, and now there seems to be movement on Vance and the president's part. Maybe this thing is not set in stone. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Because honestly, no deal is a hell of a lot better than this deal. George in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, George.
Great topic. I'm like most of your callers. I don't agree with any of this. I think that this is foolish. So you were just saying, so the war might be back on. So that's the problem Trump needs to learn is that he needs to basically. This uncertainty he throws into the market is it's a killer for him, and he took down JD on it. JD was against it at first. So you're taking out a prominent, possible future leader out of the equation, which our country desperately needs someone like JD. I'm not saying it has to be JD, but someone like him. So, I mean, to me, I look at this deal as someone 24 hours, sober on some hard drug, and now you're giving them $10,000. What do you expect to happen? I think what you said makes the most sense. You just leave, or you just keep the flotilla out there and no agreement, and just go on, because this is one of those things that it's going to take years to resolve. There's no time limit on something like this. That's how I see it. But
well, George, look, I agree. And look, I don't want to, it's all water under the bridge now because the blockade has been lifted and they're starting to reopen the strait. But I mean, we had them. Just the blockade alone. It would have taken a few more months, and I understand it would have artificially, because then the Iranians would have kept trying, their blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. But remember, their blockade was leaking. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just super quick. J.D. Vance now has gone on, I believe it's X. Anyway, he's gone on social media. I think it's X. He now says, we win either way. He's speaking on behalf of himself and the president. Whether we sign this memorandum of understanding or we don't sign the memorandum of understanding on Friday, either way, they say the United States has won. And even if the memorandum of understanding, for whatever reason, is rescinded, or they decide to tear it up, or they decide not to go through with it, they believe that the United States has won. In other words, we've won now either way. That's almost quoting verbatim what JD said. If that's the case, if we've won either way, then just don't do the deal. I mean, tell me if you agree or disagree. So we don't give them all this money up front, and they admit they're giving them money up front, billions up front, as an incentive to get them to sign on Friday. And there's no access to the potentially $100 billion in frozen assets, of the Iranian frozen assets. There's no access to the $100 billion, and there's no $300 billion reconstruction fund. So I'm like, yeah, forget it. Okay. In exchange for a promise, maybe after 60 days, that they will, agree to never enrich, to hand over their enriched uranium, which is already deeply buried under 3 nuclear sites, under 3 mountains, which Trump says will take the Iranians years to even dig out of. They don't have the technology to get it. Only we or China have the technology to access that. So if that's the case, then just leave. If you want, keep the Navy there for a while. Make sure the straits stay open or relatively open. Bring in NATO, bring in France, bring in Britain, bring in the Europeans, bring in India, bring in South Korea. They've all vowed to help demine the Strait of Hormuz and make sure it stays free and open, and you have passage for commercial vessels and oil tankers. So bring in the international community. They rely on the strait more than we do. They get their oil through the strait. We don't. So they have more of an incentive to keep it open than we do. And just declare victory. Again, I don't understand. Where does it say you need a piece of paper to end a war? Some kind of a final agreement or treaty or whatever. You don't need a piece of paper. So you don't have to negotiate with these savages and these barbarians. And again, that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lee in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Lee, and welcome.
Jeff, and I first of all have to say that I love Dr. Grace in a non-sexual way. I have 3 points. I said to my brother, we had a conversation about a month and a half ago, and I said, the president's going to have to do something to resolve this no later than the end of June, because this will sabotage all the great Republican candidates that we have across the country. First of all, I don't care what you call it, a fee, a duty, tariff, whatever. The strait has to be open and open for free. There are so many commercial and recreational watercraft that goes through that strait. it's going to have an effect on the economy. You know, I cruise a lot, so we pay fees. The passenger pays fees for that ship to dock in different places. There are taxes and fees. That will drive that up. But moreover, what about the oil? What about grain? What about all the other things on ships that have to be transported through that strait? It's just going to be a nightmare. The mountains where the uranium is buried, how are we going to make sure that they don't dig a tunnel to get there? A tunnel can be located. We know they're good at tunnels. A tunnel can be located somewhere else and go into the mountain. It's far-fetched, but it's not completely outrageous. Are we going to have drones with cameras to make sure they're being good? And the Biden administration, talk about money, gave how many billions to the Iranian government for humanitarian expenditure? What did they do? They bought drones. They supplied their military to attack us and our military and the Israeli military. How is this going to be executed? How is this planned? I don't agree with it. I think there are a lot of flaws in it. If we're going to help them rebuild, I mean, if we're going to give them money to rebuild, our Army Corps of Engineers are none but the best. They could oversee the rebuilding of Iran, and Iranians can hire their own. Iranians can hire European contractors to come in and help them rebuild. They cannot be trusted, is my bottom line. Whether it's with the billions, whether it's with the mountains and uranium, and whether it's the strait, they are crazy, as the president would say. They're a mentally insane bunch of people. They are agreeing with their hands, fingers crossed behind their backs as they sign with one hand. Their fingers are crossed.
Oh, Lee, you're 1,000% correct. Not 100. You're 1,000% correct. And that's why, to me, just the thought of giving them tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, it turns my stomach. That's why I think Trump should have nothing to do with this. It's going to bite him, you know where. Oh, it's going to haunt him. And the Democrats will never let him live it down. The media will never let him live it down. And I think that's why just don't do the deal. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. You know, and look, you can easily claim a victory. Of course you can claim a victory. But once you get in bed with these people, and look, to be fairly, I think Trump deep down, he knows that. He knows that. Because initially, what was the big justification for the war? The justification was regime change. I mean, he openly said, I only want unconditional surrender. That's all I'll accept. He told the Iranian people, your hour of freedom is at hand. Your government will be no more. Then rise up and then take back your country. He knows you can't trust him. He knows, as Grace said, a den of vipers. He knows it's a den of vipers. So he said, let's just overthrow the whole thing. And look, to be frank, I think what happened was Venezuela went so well, maybe in a way too well. Because then they started to tell him, this was Lindsey Graham, this was General Keane, that was Hegseth's argument. We can take out Iran the way we took out Maduro. First day, we'll take out Khamenei, the supreme leader. We'll take out their prime minister. We'll take out their defense minister. We'll take out their interior minister. In other words, we'll decapitate their entire political leadership. He goes, and then they'll fall like a house of cards. So it'll be almost, Venezuela just in the Persian Gulf. And they said it worked once, it'll work again. And no, Venezuela was a perfect operation. And by the grace of God, there were no casualties or no mistakes. But, if you know anything about war, and any soldier will tell you that, you have to have a plan B, because you always need a plan B, because it rarely goes as planned. The perfect operation, the flawless operation, is the exception to the rule. And so they thought it was going to be a lightning war, a quick war, a decisive war, a Venezuela, but on a bit of a larger country. And they began to realize within a couple of weeks, they're more entrenched than we originally thought. 617-266-6868. Let's go right to Arthur in New York. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Jeff, this deal is completely unenforceable. Like in the buried nuclear stuff, they're already destroying the tunnels and mining it. So, I mean, it's a disaster, completely unenforceable. And the deal with on Israel was basically, they said to him, Iran was responsible for all the atrocities of October 7th, like putting babies in ovens and beheadings. And they basically said to him, we want to commit more atrocities against Israeli Jews, and in return, we'll give you a fake deal. Completely unenforceable. Again, I was a supporter of him for, all three times. I'm really beside myself with this. It's terrible.
Arthur, if you were advising him now, what would you tell him to do?
I'd say you got yourself in real trouble. You'll have to show some spine, and just if they even look at him with a crooked expression, he's back to the bombing. I mean, he should have done what you did. You said you did the first bombing, then you did the second, and get out. You can't control what people do. Whether they're going to be able to overthrow the government or not. And he would have gotten 10 or 20 years of peace. So he's going to have to show some spine, and it's not going to look good for him. But that's the least bad alternative.
I agree. Arthur, I completely agree. Arthur, thank you very much for that call. Diane in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Diane, and welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Diane.
Hello. I just love all the different opinions. That's why I listen. It's great. But this time, I'm conflicted. But I think that everyone was complaining that no president would do anything about it. And he finally does something. We finally have a president that actually did something that set them back years. They said probably up to 15 years. He absolutely cares. He has a beautiful family with all his grandkids. He cares, and he's putting America first by taking out a regime. Didn't they go like 3 layers deep anyway? And they did take out some. And the whole main thing was to get the uranium. It wasn't all about regime change. He did want the Iranian people to rise up, but he was also extremely motivated to get that uranium that Obama and Hillary gave them all the billions in the middle of the night and enriched them and let them do it. President after president, Democrat president after president after president, even some Republicans, they did nothing. And sooner or later, that country that despises us wants to wipe us off the face of the earth. Well, Trump deserves praise for what he did. And yes, we all know that when it comes to elections, everyone votes with their wallet. And we know how Americans are. Just watch a small interview by Jesse Waters, what's his name, Johnny. And they don't know anything that's going on. A bunch of Democrats, they didn't even know who the VP was when it was Kamala Harris. They couldn't even tell you. So when that economy, when that gas goes down and the oil prices go down and the inflation goes back down, which is way better than it was under Joe, people forget so quickly. Even Republicans are complaining about the price of things. Well, everything is way less. I don't know what they're talking about. I remember paper plates were $5 under Joe, and now they're $2. Same with eggs. Same with fruits and vegetables. Like, everything is cheaper.
Oh, I agree. No, Diane, I do the shopping for our home, and I agree with you. Peanut butter, you mentioned, I do like paper plates, paper bowls, paper plates, cheaper, peanut butter, fruits, vegetables, bread, most meats, not all. Beef is still high. But for the most part, I agree with you. No, look, he's done an incredible job on the economy, on the border, on energy. And look, these mullahs, their whole regime is based on death to America. I think that's why what people are saying is finish the job. I think that's what people are telling Trump. Finish it. Or if you don't want to finish it, fine. Just declare victory and leave. Because you have set them back for a long time. For at least 10 years, you've eliminated the threat of a nuclear Iran. That's no small thing. But the problem is, if you now want to make a deal with them, to give them more incentives, to bring them into the region, to normalize them, and you want to help rebuild their economy, which is what they're talking about, nobody wants to give them hundreds of billions of dollars. That's where all the opposition is coming from. And I think that's where Trump is now feeling the backlash.